On a suddenly not so casual 7-point Sunday, it is NFL Week 4. It is October 2nd, 2022. It is the Circa Millions 2022 competition, the show, top 5 plays, hype, analysis, and discussion. It is Sharky Waters Nation, 9 words of lifestyle. Ride the wave or get out of the water. It is the gun. It is the odds fellow. Guns picks. What's going on this morning, my brother?
Man, oh man, did we have ourselves a Saturday, Shark. We are just going to carry over our 16 units and double down on the NFL slate today. Feeling good, feeling great. I'm going to pass it to my man, Odds. How you doing today, this beautiful Sunday morning?
I just hope I can build on all that momentum you guys were talking about, and we'll sprinkle it throughout NFL Sunday. I'm going to get you picks. We're going to get you in and out of here, and then I'm going to catch an Aaron Judge home run ball today, baby. Look for me left field for number 62.
Turning the music off, going directly to the card on a suddenly not so casual sharp Sunday. We're going Jerry World. We're going road locker room. I'm going to the gun first, and then we will further discuss Washington Commanders on the road, +3, an official.
I'm fading the semi-hot team here in the Cowboys, and I'm jumping on the stinky wagon of the Washington Commies. And let me tell you why. Coming off a bad loss last week against Philly at home, 24-8, -160 net yards. You're like, what are you doing taking Washington +3? But you have Dallas coming off back-to-back wins over Cincy, which was a hard-fought win, almost losing in the second half. And then they come on Monday Night Football, and they beat a lackluster team, in my opinion, the New York Football Giants, 23-16 with a +55 net yard average. Both of these games came as Dallas as an underdog, straight-up wins. Now, looking into history, Washington is in a double revenge. We talked about this on the college show. This always holds true when looking at these games. There is high statistical value taking a double revenge team in a lot of these spots. They lost on the road to Dallas 56-14 as 9.5-point dogs, and then they lost 27-20 as 6.5-point dogs in 2021. Now you see Washington sitting here at a +3. Telltale sign, +3, +3.5, doesn't matter. I'm going to be rocking the Washington Commodores +3 as the play.
Alignment, and for the first time in the history of this show, the buy hat is engaged. Jumping off of what Gunn said, a lot going on here. I think you have to go through the Commanders' schedule and really reclassify the teams they have played. When we came into this campaign, when we looked at Jacksonville, Detroit, and Philadelphia, we were not saying class, but I think you got to look back and say what's going on here. Jacksonville, 2-1 straight up on the campaign, a tight loss at Washington in week 1, a blowout win of the Colts, who just beat Kansas City, and a blowout win of the Chargers, who play Kansas City tight every single ball game. So you got to readjust this. And, of course, a blowout loss last week, 24-8 to Philadelphia, who looks like potentially the class of the entire NFC right now. So I think Washington is far better than people think. And you go to the other side of this game, you find a situation with the Cowboys that is just purely unsustainable. Cooper Rush, Central Michigan, little renaissance. I get it, but I think that's opponent-driven too. The first win at home against Cincinnati Super Bowl hangover, a lot of crap going on in that game. Cincinnati played horribly, more so than Dallas played fantastically. And you go to Monday Night Football, the Giants, 2-0 ATS, 2-0 in the campaign. The Giants are just not that team that can deal with continued success like that. You saw it. The Giants got up 13-6 in the third quarter, gave it right back. A tight game. This is an all boxes check spot, as Gunn suggested. Also a double revenge game. Carson Wentz traveling down AT&T Field, otherwise known as Jerry World, +3 official. We're staying in this division, and we are going to New York. Speaking of the aforementioned New York Giants, Anthony Latino, a.k.a. the odds fellow. Chicago Bears come in here off a tight win, cover or push, depending on your line. We did win that in the Circa competition last week with a -2.5 against the Texans. Giants off the loss, short week. Chicago +3, an official.
Yeah, interesting spot because you have two teams that have struggled the last few years. Coaching carousel has impacted both, and I do think you have better overall environments that these coaches and these teams are creating, which you love to see. But I will still take the plus 3 points here with Chicago on the road. Two things. First, this is the lowest total on the board, so getting those points, especially at 3 in a game that I think is going to be tight, razor thin. I love this is 38.5 from the total. That's the lowest total on the board by a few points. And when you really peel it back here, and the big reason for me is the DVOA splits alone, right? 23rd versus 28th overall, which on the surface doesn't seem like much, but when you go under that hood a little bit more, the defense, the Chicago Bears rank 11th on DVOA defensively. The New York Giants rank 28th. So you saw what the Giants did against some similar fences, and they did squeak out that win against Tennessee. That was the 26th ranked team defensively. Again, Chicago is 11th here against Carolina in a game that I think the Panthers truthfully gave away. They're the 14th ranked defense. The Giants scored 19 points, and against the 8th ranked defense in Dallas, they only scored 16 points in a game that they looked pretty awful in. So I just don't think offensively they're going to do enough to get it going. I think they're going to get stymied, and I have a little bit more faith here in Justin Fields and that Bears offense to keep it tight or get the outright win. So +3, if you see a +3.5, I think that's a huge buy spot if it does move that way at all. So Chicago Bears, it's going to be a messy one in MetLife. Let's get it done.
Yeah. Obviously, Hurricane Ian coming up the East Coast here. We hope people in Florida survive. And I know that's not some sort of little placating point for me. I know it's really, really desolate down there in the Tampa area. Giving you guys all the prayers, and that's again not bullshit. That's energy we try to create and give you guys through this channel. Positive, abundant energy. We're sending you the best possible vibes in really difficult times. Staying course with this, Guns picks. I believe we do have alignment with Chicago Bears at +3 here.
I'm aligned with odds on this one. I think it's a great play on the Chicago Bears here. Listen, you have the New York Giants coming off. This is their third straight home game going into this spot. They lost to Dallas on Monday Night Football 23-16. So it's a short week for them to prepare for the Chicago Bears. And the Giants really haven't shined at home, especially in the yardage battle. -10 net yards versus Carolina, -55 net yards last week versus Dallas. And you have Chicago coming off a home win over a Houston team, 23-20 with +34 net yards. But what does Chicago do? Chicago is basically the triple option of the NFL, but they don't run the triple option. They just love to run the football. 5.9 yards per carry to Dallas, 6.3 yards per carry to Carolina at home. I'm sorry, that's the defense for the New York Football Giants. Let me get to the Chicago here. So for the offense perspective, 5.4 yards per carry on the ground, Chicago's offense does. Now let's look at the Giants defense. In the run game, they allowed 5.9 yards per carry to Dallas, 6.3 yards per carry to Carolina, both home games, by the way, in the last 2 weeks. And then you have the Giants. They're not a team that you back betting. If you actually look at their last 9 games dating back to early December of 2021, 2-7 against the spread in their last 9. And if you want to even take it a step further, you want to look at their last 34 home games. You want to go deep into the weeds a little bit. 10-23-1. These New York Giants are. They are not a team that you back. And then you got to look at the wide receiver core for the Giants. They are banged up tooth and nail here. So you got Shepard that basically got hurt in the last play of the Dallas game on Monday Night Football. I don't think Tony's going to play in this game, so you're really left with nothing on the from the passing perspective. So Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes probably going to have a tough time with this Chicago defense and this running team that is just ground and pound. This is kind of one of those games where it's going to be completely dominated by the Chicago Bears, in my opinion. I like the +3. I'm going to take it. So give me Chicago +3 as the play.
Yeah, excuse me, guys. Nice little morning. You got to clear your throat, apparently. We get up early to dominate this show. But, of course, that is an official play in the Circa Millions competition. That is Old Man Who Bets and the Great Fusini. Non-official play for me, and I will make a comment on this. I was talking about this on Thursday with Jay Money. Of course, Jay Money will be on at 11:30 Eastern. This card this week, tight lines. Expect a lot of tight outcomes. 13 games this week have a line under -4. And that's just a snapshot to the parity of league, how tight a lot of teams are. You got a couple guys at the top, and you have a ton of teams, about 80% of the league, right around a field goal margin with each other. So we're trying to find the top spots. Not we didn't agree on every pick in our Circa Millions this week. However, Chicago +3 is on that card. Tail if you wish. And of course, officials from the gun and the odds fellow. Next one. Taking this hat off, put another hat on. We got a nice abundant quotient of hats here. Buy hat part 2 is engaged. Throwing this to Anthony. Cleveland -1. Talk to me as I get the hat situated.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And that's the Circa spot too. I was just checking the line, but we did get it in the contest again. That group that Shark talked about there, -1. I know all three of us have a little bit to talk about here, so I'm not going to go too depth. But for me, it's really just a fade of the Falcons, and you're going to hear this theme from me throughout today's show. It's fading teams, especially that are running hot against the spread this season. The Atlanta Falcons are one of those teams, 3-0 against the spread. We did back them last week. I threw a half unit late in the day on their matchup against Seattle, and they hung on. But again, it's an offense that doesn't really impress me. I think the total is a good look here in this spot as well. But they kind of backdoored the Rams, which I know Shark is going to get into a little bit. And they haven't really looked good offensively. They did beat up a little bit on that Seattle team, scoring a late touchdown with 41 seconds left. So that was 3 TDs in that game. They scored 2 passing TDs offensively in week 2 and 2 rushing TDs offensively in week 1. But the biggest problem here that I think I see is, again, matchup and the ATS regression against the spread regression. But the big key statistically is this Cleveland Browns team comes in as the 3rd ranked rushing attack per DVOA, 3rd overall, right? Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. This team wants to run the ball down your throat, and Jacoby Brissett's been really good. Yet you get defensively against the overall, the 23rd ranked DVOA defense here. So 2nd DVOA rush offense is Cleveland, 27th DVOA rush defense Atlanta. I think they're going to run it down their throat, so I'm glad to take the 1 here. It's an ugly line, which I know we'll get into, but I'll take Cleveland -1 all day.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I'll jump off that as we bring the second buy hat is engaged on a suddenly not so casual 7-point Sunday, October 2nd, 2022. It is Sharky Waters Nation, 9 words of lifestyle. Ride the wave we got the water. We got a record number of people watching right now, 366. Retweet and share. Let's get more people in here. Bringing the top looks and an official play dropping right now. I'm on Cleveland -120 money line, just juicing it up slightly. Not a big deal. They should actually win this game with authority. I just like to be careful once in a while. And what you're looking at here, as Anthony said, fool's gold. Atlanta Falcons 3-0 ATS. Why? Week 1, lackluster Saints team who just scored at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I must say. However, not traveling well in the division with Jameis Winston on the road. Week 2 on the road at the Rams. Rams falling into a similar category with Cincinnati, who also tanked ATS in week 2 to Dallas, as we previously suggested. The Rams were up 28-3 in that ball game and just said, all right, we won, whatever, on to next week. And Atlanta came back, like can so frequently happen in NFL football, in a tight, chaotic 60-minute window once a week, and got a defensive touchdown, I believe, backdoored the game. I was actually sitting in this studio, thought we had it, started to do a workout, came back, and literally my eyes were popping out of my face to blow a 28-3 lead. But the key point, the Rams could have blown them out by 45 points there. It wasn't a snapshot to Atlanta's quality at all. Week 3 now, off that cover, staying on the West Coast, went up to Seattle and beat really a lackluster Seattle team. Now you come home, 2 games on the West Coast, traveling across the country, 2-0 ATS on that trip, 3-0 overall off an outright win. And you get Cleveland here, who very well should be 3-0 straight up on this season. Win at the Panthers as a direct corollary to this game, because of course it is in the same division. Should have beat the Jets in one of the biggest backdoors in that week 2 cluster of crazy backdoors. And then of course a 29-17 win against the Steelers. We're officially on Cleveland -120. I'm personally on the first half as well. I don't like giving out first half plays here officially. First half is a great look, fading Atlanta coming back across country in the first half in their home stadium. Guns picks, alignment, I believe.
Full alignment here, and it's kind of remarkable that that our names underneath us have the Browns color. And talking to that point that Shark just made about having record numbers today of live viewers, we have 35 watching on YouTube right now. Do me a favor while you're watching this, hit this big old thumbs up button and smash it. And then if you ain't subscribed to the Dad Bods channel, you might as well do that as well because we bring the sharpest content on the planet. But I digress. Let's go into the Browns a little bit. It's a bounce back last week over Pitt on Thursday Night Football, 29-17 with a plus 68 net yard at edge. They also have extra rest in this spot because they did play Thursday. So an extra 3 days of rest over Atlanta. Now look where Atlanta's been. Atlanta just did the West Coast swing back-to-back weeks. So they had to play Seattle last week. They had a nice little win there, 27-23, but they lost the net yards battle, minus 34, and actually had a -1 turnover ratio. So statistically speaking, the score didn't really tell the outcome of that game, in my opinion. I think Atlanta snuck out a win based on those statistics. So you have this team that's been on the West Coast for the last 2 weeks. They got to go travel back home. The first time that they've been home since week 1 when they actually had a dramatic loss to the New Orleans Saints. And then what Oz was saying is like this is a Cleveland team that loves to run the football. They love to pound the rock, and they're going against a Atlanta defense that cannot stop the run. They gave up 7.9 yards per carry to the New Orleans Saints in week 1. And then you look at what they did against Seattle, and I'm only picking out the run teams here if you actually look at their schedule. So this is the teams that like to run the ball have success. 4.9 yards per carry Seattle had last week. And I mean, quite frankly, I don't think Seattle is a juggernaut in the run game. Now they're going against a Cleveland team that is absolutely going to pound the damn rock, averaging 199 yards on the ground and 5.0 yards per carry this season. This is a play on the Browns, in my opinion, and you get it at -1. Come on, man. I'm going to take that all day long. Give me the Cleveland Browns -1.
Next play, we're taking a total. We're going to Energy Stadium, Houston, Texas, 1 o'clock Eastern. I believe this is Central Time down there in Houston. Official play per the Shark, under 45, Chargers, Houston. I don't take a lot of totals. When I really hone in on them, I find very specific environments that are crazy outliers in previous games that are very due to regress. And that regress is probably the incorrect word. If an outlier exists, it just stands alone on a data dispersion. It has no correlation to sustainability whatsoever. So basically, you have to go back to last year. In this particular matchup last year, Justin Herbert and the boys came in, and the game was graded by Vegas at 45. The game finished 41-29, which is 70 points. We discussed this when we had an under Green Bay, Chicago 2 weeks ago on Sunday Night Football, I believe it was. And we said there was a crazy outlierish quarter, 45 points. And the line is coming under 1 quarter's total. This is very, very similar stuff. In that 41-29 game, there were 38 points in the fourth quarter, a complete explosion. And you actually saw an opening line this year coming down from that. It was 45. It finished at 70. And this came in early week at 44. It's gotten steamed up for a number of reasons. Of course, we don't cap the market. We cap the game. But you're going to see a much tighter, low-scoring game here tonight. You're looking at Justin Herbert. I mean, this guy is an absolute gamer. He has some sort of rib injury that's a cartilage tear or something. Apparently excruciating pain. Getting, I guess, an injection to play. You saw it last week. They couldn't score the ball. Davis Mills and company, good at home ATS in the division, not so much outside the division. Should be a defensive battle. 1 unit, Chargers, Houston, under 45. Anthony Latino, a side in this game, I believe. Speaking of Justin Herbert on the boys, coming on the road off a blowout loss to Jacksonville last week. Chargers 5.5, unofficial.
5.5. I'd play it up to 6. I think we're going to get into some fun here with me and Guns. We'll try to go quick, though. I know a lot of you are watching. We truly appreciate it. 5.5 for me. So Ronald Kabang, our boy on Twitter, dropped this. Great at trends, great at analysis. Give him a follow, too. But since 2017, road favorites coming off a loss as a favorite, like Shark mentioned, and not looking ahead to a division game the next week are 37, 13, and 2 against the spread. That fits the Chargers. It fits another game we're going to touch on a little bit with the Buffaloes. But besides that trend, really here you get a healthier Justin Herbert. This guy can cook if they give him the keys. What I am worried about a little bit is the coaching matchup, but I think Herbert and the offense take care of this. It's not like LA has a home field advantage, right? So they're going on the road. That really doesn't matter because they do not draw in LA, which we see over and over again here. So again, the road aspect of this does not scare me. What I do like is that healthier Herbert. this defense, the Chargers, where they've really struggled is getting off the field in third down. The LA Chargers defense ranks 23rd overall in total third down defense, allowing teams at almost a 45% clip, 44.74% conversions. You know who's dead last at converting in third down in the NFL? The Houston Texans, baby. I don't think they have enough offensive firepower to keep up. This is a strong line sitting there on the road. So, again, DVOA wise, just to close this out, defense is pretty similarly ranked 15th versus 17th. So, Houston can bang a little bit, but where the big discrepancy is on offense, 14th for the Chargers, again, getting healthier off a dud last week, still holding a 14th ranking against the 30th ranked Houston Texans offense. They can't get it done down. They look terrible on offense. Even if they can play scrappy on defense, I like that number. So Chargers to get it done. We'll toss it over to Guns to see what we're putting on the line here. Maybe Aviva, baby. Maybe Aviva.
Yeah, and Guns picks here. Listening to everything that Anthony says, taking it with a grain of salt, pushing it off his back and saying, "Sir, I disagree." And Guns picks, conversation wins. Tell us why Anthony is unequivocally, indisputably, impossibly, and irreverently incorrect.
Listen, this is a Houston team that's scrappy. You brought up the point, scrappy, and they're coming off back-to-back road losses, which they competed all the way through in these games. Lost to Denver on the road, tough place to play in Mile High, 16-9, and then they go to Chicago and actually hard-fought push at the +3 mark, 23-20 they lost, and obviously they had the tie the last time they played at home. But look at this. Look at where the Chargers are coming from here. They're coming off back-to-back losses, losing to KC on Thursday Night Football, 27-24. Tough loss, and then of course the Herbert injury kind of played into that effect. Moving into the Jacksonville Jaguars at home, 38-10. So they're coming off a really bad run of back-to-back games here, but both these teams played last season, so there are some data on there. Houston winning 41-29 as 12-point dogs. So I look at that number and I go, well, they're 12-point dogs last year, and now they're sitting at 5.5 this year. I think that's a huge swing in the line, in my opinion, considering they're playing situationally in the same spot now that they were last year. Also look at what Houston's done going back to 2021. They've covered 6 out of their last 7 games dating back to last season. I think, Odds brought up some key trends from Kabang. And I understand that, but I'm looking at the matchup here, and I'm looking at Herbert. He's banged up, and I wonder, and my other question was, can Houston put pressure on Herbert? And the answer is yes, they can. They have a great pass rush. They have 10 sacks this season with a 10.2% sack rate. So they can actually put pressure on Herbert. And, with the LA Chargers, they're not really a run team. They want to go and pass the ball. And I just think that the wear and tear on Justin Herbert's cartilage, ribs, or whatever the injury is, I think that's going to really predicate into this game. You saw how it happened last game. I really think this guy just needs some rest to heal. And they're really forcing the issue with him. And you can take all trends and everything applied here. I just think that Herbert is more hurt than he is healthy. And I don't like that at all. I couldn't back that, in my opinion. So I'm taking Houston +5 as the home dog.
Yeah, I like it. And I think, of course, just a snapshot to where NFL football, again, there's always an angle on the other side. There is no unequivocal lock in this sport. 1 game a week, the best athletes on the planet clustered into a small field, 60 minutes of chaos. Speaking of chaos, we're going to go to a couple games right now where we're unofficial. We're going to drop 2 more official bangers in about 10, 15 minutes. We appreciate you guys running down the card with us because we want to get into detail. We know office pools are very real. We know people are at the bar. And I will say this, if you're at the bar, which I used to go to the bar every single Sunday for over a decade, I know how much people gamble and how it can get out of line. Stay the course with your original card. It will serve you well in the long run. In-game betting is fantastic, but it can get out of line real quick, particularly in the middle of an afternoon when alcohol is involved, tilt, loud noise, and probably some weekend fatigue as well in the mind. Staying course with it all. We're going to Detroit. Lions here opened up, I believe, at -6. A lot of steam coming against. Seahawks on the road, awful loss to the aforementioned Atlanta Falcons last week. Seahawks only road environment, divisional week 2 blowout at the Niners. You can't cross-reference the Niners with the Lions. The Lions laying a significant number could be problematic here. The fact that the Sharps steamed Atlanta last week against Seattle and are now steaming Seattle against Detroit, and they won last week. I don't have a grip on this game, but when I do see sharp market movement like that, and it won last week and the same team is involved this week, I do pay attention. I think Seattle might have a lean here. Anthony, any comments?
Just Detroit's really banged up, and I think that factors into it too. You know, I don't know if that was a head or drove the line movement even further, but I think they're missing a running back and a wide receiver. You know, tough spot, especially to be hanging more than a field goal. And we see what that was doing when it was closer to a touchdown. They've struggled to stop teams defensively, so any team can really stay in it, even though the Seahawks have struggled offensively. So for me, I agree from a pool standpoint, gambling standpoint. You know, probably a pass from a pool if I had to. If I had to take the points, I would take the Seattle.
Yeah, Guns?
Yeah, you made a key point here. Their top receiver, Amon-Ra, is out this game. So they're banged up. DeAndre Swift is going to be out in this game as well. So I think the line is more predicated on the offensive production of the Detroit Lions is going to be very depleted in this one. And if you want to trust Goff without his weapons, go right ahead. But I think the sharp angle is probably to take Seattle, especially off a bounce back loss where they actually dominated the net yardage battle with the Atlanta Falcons and also won the turnover battle in the loss. It's kind of a play on team on a bounce back for Seattle. It's not something that I'm willing to trust. I don't really think they're anything any way, shape, or form a good team in my opinion. But looking at what Detroit's going to have to deal with going into this game. Their only big win was against the Commodores at home, and also having that bad loss to the Eagles in Week 1. So I think the steam is right. The line is short for a reason, and it's basically to bait everybody that I guess it's become a public darling now that everyone loves the Lions, which kind of stinks because I really like this team. But I think the play is Seattle or pass, but it's not a play that's going to hit my card.
And another team there that's 3-0 ATS against the spread is Detroit too. We touched on that already a little bit with Houston and with Atlanta. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And we had talked about this, just the fact that theoretical preseason bottom feeders are just absolutely cleaning up ATS. Forget the sport of football. This is purely data dispersion and the law of averages. You could win at this sport knowing nothing about the players and purely cap statistical averages as they move north and south across an expected long-term average. And I'll tell you one thing, the Detroit Lions are not a 90% cover team over the next 10 years. So they become a fade team purely on an ATS standpoint off a heater, which is largely centered on home dog environments and a lot of backdoors late. Now you get the over adjustment. And we see this in every sport. When books reset the average, they're basically telling you the entire market prior, that was great. You guys got it. You enjoyed it. It's done. This is a new Detroit environment. Cap it differently. It's a new team in a new space. Speaking of a new team in a new space, the New York Jets get their starting quarterback back this week. BYU's finest, Zach Wilson. Still not sure if this kid's a sophomore in high school or if he's approaching his mid-20s. However, on the road at the Steelers come in here off a mini bye, a loss in the division to the Cleveland Browns going back a week ago Thursday. Jets are getting steamed here. It was +3.5, +3 now. Guns picks. I believe this was on your radar to a certain degree.
Yeah, it was, and it almost made my top 5 this week. It's just below it. I would say it's a hot 6 or 7 on my card, but it's probably something that's going to be official in the Slack channel, and maybe I'll post it later on Twitter. But I almost put it as an official here with the Jets. Listen, the Jets. You actually look at their last 2 games, and I kind of throw out Baltimore because Baltimore just kind of steamrolled them here. They basically stayed competitive as far as net yards are concerned. Even in their loss 27-12 to Cincinnati, they were -2 net yards in that game. So they played up to the level of the reigning AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals. But you look at Pittsburgh on the other side, they've been playing lackluster at best. Back-to-back losses, losing 29-17 to Cleveland in Thursday Night Football. Granted, they're coming off some rest here. off the road. But this is a team that's kind of playoff since they lost TJ Watt. TJ Watt is the heartbeat of that defense. And you have Zach Wilson, like Shark just said, coming back for the Jets. I think this is kind of a motivating high spot to go and take the Jets. I know that there are questions about, is he the guy? Is he not the guy? I think he's got enough gusto and pep and youthful exuberance to really pep a already kind of motivated Jets team looking for a win and hungry for a win after the loss at home. And they're actually played better on the road. Look what they did against Cleveland. I mean, granted, it was in dramatic fashion, but they are a motivated road team. And this may be something that we can look at as we get a little bit more down the road in the season. Is the Jets just just a team that can play on the road, but they can't play at home? So I'm looking at that, monitoring that, and seeing them as a short 3.5, 3 team. I wouldn't mind taking it myself, and I'm probably going to make it official for the Slack and take the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, again, a specific snapshot point to the NFL. When you see a plus 3.5 like this, Pittsburgh laying over a field goal in a tight window, that's tough. 3 could be that push zone. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a couple overtime games today. One overtime game. I would not be surprised. This card is ripe for an overtime game. Anthony, any comments on this one, or should we move on?
No, let's keep it moving. I think everything Gunn said. I think it's going to be a tight one. Could be messy. Could be tight. Maybe see some points. The over at that low could be an interesting look. But yeah, let's just keep it moving, baby.
Yeah, agreed. And speaking of finding points, 1:00, Lucas Oil Stadium, a team we bought correctly last week in the Contrarian Special, where everybody in the world told us we were certifiably insane, and there was no shot a team that was coming off a 24-0 loss on the road could beat the Super Bowl perennial title running Patrick Mahomes, and they did. Now they come back home again in the division against Tennessee. Tennessee last year in this particular game at Lucas Oil had the same exact number, +3, and won the game by 3 points in overtime. A snapshot to how tight this game might be. However, I think we're looking towards the Colts as a lean. Anthony, comments?
Yeah, that's a lean. I just think they're better from top to bottom, and maybe they got themselves going a little bit and snapped out of this funk. Historically, the last few years with the quarterback carousel that's been there, for whatever reason, these Colts can't get out of their own way to start the seasons. Do they correct it and find a similar trend here? Maybe. But I'm just lower on the Tennessee Titans than I have been all year. Tough to take a side here because it is a division matchup. Both teams have struggled a little bit, like Guns alluded to, or like Shark alluded to, but I do lean slightly Colts. Gun to head.
Yeah, and segueing out, taking a breath as we reboot here, 33 minutes in on a suddenly not so casual 7-point Sunday, October 2nd, 2022, week 4. The final buy hat of the early slate. A new print is engaged.
Duh, Bills.
And take a beautiful look at that hat, ladies and gentlemen.
Look at that paint job. That's like 1993, right? That's coming right.
That's Jim Kelly all the way, baby.
Are you wearing Zumba pants too underneath?
I got the blue shirt on. We got the whole thing going. And you guys know I love an opportunity to back my man, Josh Allen, campaign 5. And a lot going on here. You look at the Buffalo Bills. This is a Buffalo Bills team 2 years in a row, deep in the playoffs, losses to Kansas City. They are on the cusp. They are on the come up. In my opinion, they are the best team in the sport. And what do they do incredibly well? Back up or bounce back off a loss with a win, and a win with authority. This team is 4-1 ATS in the regular season, last 5, off an outright loss. They should be 5-0. The only non-cover for Buffalo off a loss the previous week was at Tampa Bay last year in week 14. The game was +3 Buffalo. It went to overtime. So they did cover the game in a 60-minute window. So this team is 5-0 ATS within the 60 minutes of regulation off a loss in the last 2 seasons. And this is just what they do. They'll lose a game. Oftentimes they'll dominate a game they lost, which is exactly what they did last week in Miami, outgaining them by roughly 300 yards. Then they come back and they just get pissed the hell off. This is the type of team you want to back, a team that has not won a title, a team that is more motivated, more angered in the regular season than your average team, very well coached, and an MVP quarterback who also has the mental makeup, professional mentality, and I will say some damn swagger to go with it. This team wants to come in here and smash the Ravens. And I think people are a little bit too high on the Ravens. The Ravens are 2-1 on the campaign. Both wins were road games as a favorite at fringe to non-playoff AFC Eastern teams. Blowout week 1 at the Jets, blowout week 3 at the Patriots. You saw what they did to Miami. People were high on Miami. Again, Miami got outgained by 300 yards by Buffalo and then got hammered by Cincinnati, who everybody said Cincinnati sucked. So this is the ins and outs, the interweb, the zigzag of professional football. You find a bye spot. You find an environment where the last game played 2 years ago in the playoffs, Buffalo on a shorter line at home did handle Lamar Jackson 17-3 in the divisional round. And I know people say they're fatigued, this, and that. Last year, off the Miami road game, Buffalo came home and hammered Washington 43-21. And one final point, people talking about Hurricane Ian, the weather, all this stuff. People, Buffalo plays in Buffalo. This is a cold weather, rain, snow, sleet team. They're equipped for it. They're better, they're stronger, they're faster, they're more equipped. All boxes checked. Buffalo Bills stand the hell up on the road. 1 unit official, -3. Anthony, talk to me.
Yeah, they fit that trend that we talked about earlier. And when I really just think when you look at what they can bring to the table, some of the statistical outliers in that game that they did lose, they gave it away, right? They outplayed them, they outgained them. And I think it's going to be a tough matchup overall here for the Baltimore Ravens, who are still very banged up on defense. So they fit that trend. Buffalo, one key point on Lamar, too, to think about. He's very good this year against the blitz. He's turned that around a little bit. I think he's first or second in the league as a quarterback rating against the blitz. Guess who doesn't blitz? The Buffalo Bills. They get pressure on their own. So it's going to be a really interesting spot if they can sit back there and play a base defense, still get pressure and keep Lamar in check. He's not going to see those blitz looks that maybe he's been eating against this season. So I agree. Not official for me just yet, but lean Bills.
Yeah, and Guns picks here with the Patriots hat on. Theoretical bias against the bye hat. However, this is sports professional wagering. There is no emotion in sports betting. One of my guys said he's taking Buffalo as a Ravens fan. I don't remember his name on Twitter. Shout to you, sir, for taking control of the endeavor yourself. Guns picks. Talk to me on this one.
Listen, I hold no alliances to teams. I know the Patriots stink. I will bet against the Patriots in spots. Don't worry about that. Granted, on this show, I've been backing the Patriots a lot. I'm not doing it this week, am I? You don't hear me doing plus 10.5. But let's talk about the Bills for a second. If you want to go against the Bills off a loss against a divisional opponent, be my guest. But look what happened in that game. Buffalo dominated the net yards in that game. Go look at the box score if you want to go check that out. They put up 90 plays of offense versus the Miami Dolphins. They drove down the field and just missed in a very tough spot playing in 90-degree heat. Yes, Shark hit it on the button. Buffalo is a bad weather team. They play in bad weather. If you take them and you put them in the heat with the humidity, of course they're going to play bad. That's what happened last week. But they're on a bounce back in this spot here. And I know they're right up the road for me. I can go check the weather report by just opening my door to tell you what the Ravens' weather is going to be. It's going to be cold, it's going to be wet, and it's going to be dreary. And I call that Buffalo weather. So this is going to be one of those spots that Buffalo gets right. And they're probably going to really dominate against the Ravens because I think this Ravens team has defensive problems, especially in the secondary. And guess who likes to expose that? Mr. Jared Allen, who can not only pass the ball, he can run the ball. He's MVP-esque. And this is a play-on team this week. Sharks wearing the hat, so you know it's going to be a winner. So give me Buffalo. That would be the way to go. You don't take the Ravens.
Yeah, and we like spending time on the top teams, particularly when they inspire us. And it's nice to get behind a team. And of course, I'm not a Buffalo fan, but sometimes guys do juice me up. And this team just has that swag about them. And I definitely fuck with it, I'll tell you that. 4 o'clock, East Coast, Anthony Latino, an official. A lot going on in a game with weather, out of conference, out of division, in conference, out of division. Cardinals on the road at a weird start time in Carolina. However, the odds fellow has a look for the road team.
Yeah, interesting buy spot here for me. Really again targeting some of those trends and stats that we talked about earlier. But what's interesting here with the Carolina Panthers is I just don't believe in them that much. It is actually an interesting revenge spot for two teams that don't play in the same division. But for whatever reason, they've played each other 3 times the last 3 years. And guess who has dominated those matchups somehow? The Carolina Panthers, who have scored 31 plus points in those 3 games, going 3-0. But what I love here, Matt Rule as a favorite, and albeit a short one in this case, but Matt Rule, 3-10 ATS as a favorite, including 7 straight L's in that mix there. Just a team and an environment that does not seem to function in that favorite role. They really haven't played anyone this year. Obviously, they're 1-2, as are the Cardinals, but the Cardinals have played a much tougher schedule to me, and coming out of it, maybe got a win that they shouldn't have, coming back against Vegas there. But I think this is the best quarterback in Kyler that the Carolina Panthers have faced. And I just love some of those trends reversing, and I love the Cardinals to get it done on a short line.
Yeah, and I think this game is going to be tough. I had discussed this privately, but when you see a team like Arizona who has been so good on the road and really developed a bizarre trend. I mean, most teams in this sport don't just play great on the road and then can't figure it out in their home stadium. I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, really. And I pride myself on really trying to get in the mind of athletes. This one for me is really hard to figure out. As you mentioned, Carolina has owned this team. Carolina did hammer them last year, 34-10 on the road in what was becoming their inability to play at home. I believe Colt McCoy was a starter for that game. Kyler Murray early season last year, which of course we are early season, was fantastic on the road outside of the division. I got nothing here. Guns, any comments, or should we keep it moving?
Just keep it moving. Not a game that I'm playing on, but I'll back my man odds on it, though.
I agree. This is a tough one, and best of luck to all who are wagering this game. 425, Patriots-Packers. 5 years ago, this would have been the marquee game on the slate. This week, you get Michigan State's finest. No, not Kirk Cousins or Draymond Green. Brian Hoyer as a starting quarterback for the Patriots. Packers here in a potential letdown spot prior to traveling overseas to face the Giants next week. Sharps love the Patriots here. Guns Picks has the hat on. Guns Picks, talk to me.
It's not going to be a play. I'm not going to be playing the Patriots. All right.
Stay away. Stay away.
Let's get that clear here. Listen, Brian Hoyer is probably my age at this point. I think we might have graduated together in college, but I don't know if this is a spot to take the Patriots. Now you look at the Green Bay. They played prime time. They won. Not prime time, but it was a 14-12 type of game versus Tampa Bay on the road. It was a great win, but it could have been a loss if it didn't come down to a 2-point conversion at the end that was missed by the Tampa Bay Bucks. Now they're going to go play a Patriots team that lost their quarterback last week, Mac Jones. Shark just alluded to, but the defense is really strong for the Patriots. That's kind of been their bread and butter all season long. They're able to keep teams at low scoring. For that matter. And you have a Green Bay team that really, for an Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be traveling to London next week, overseas. He hasn't really jived with his receivers yet. I haven't really seen that happen. Losing Devontae Adams is a real tough spot for him, especially when he gets down the red zone, because that was his crutch last year and years before. I think if anything, there may be a lean or a play on is maybe looking at the total and thinking this is an under. I mean, if the Patriots are going to keep this close and you have Green Bay, maybe their head's not really into this game, a downtrodden Patriots team, but good defense. I think Brian Hoyer can do enough to at least manage the game. It's not like this is his first start or the first snap he's ever taken in his career. I think if anything, the look would probably be towards the total on the under. That would be a lean that I have, but nothing official from me.
I did grab in our Slack channel, in the Dad Bud Slack, under 15.5. There's some 14.5s out there too for the Pats team total under. Just think they're gonna, like he said, game script wise, Belichick's gonna muck this thing up, right? Running, defense, game management, dink and dump out of Hoyer. I see them struggling to get to over 14 and over 2 TDs there. So I think that's a decent look along with the full game total, probably going under.
Yeah, no, this is a tough game. And again, I do believe sharp action, as much as you may or may not want to tail the market, as opposed to capping the game psychologically across the schedule and all the points we look at. Sharps like the Patriots here today. So take it for what it's worth. I think Green Bay may not hammer this team like everybody wants to think. Speaking of hammering a team, I missed one at 1 o'clock. We'll go there before we go back to the late schedule here. Bang, bang, Bird Gang at home, catching the Jags, cross country, off a win, brutal travel. We talked about this with Atlanta. Atlanta has worse travel, actually, but the Jaguars have tough travel off a blowout win. Bird's looking at a strong line here at 6.5 today. Anthony, I believe we have this one in a competition called the Circa Millions 2022.
Engaged for the contest. 6.5 was the contest line. We did grab it. I think Fusini is going to be on this, the great Fusini on Twitter. So make sure you check him out. It was definitely one of his heavier leans and pushes and looks. What it came down to for us is, like you said, in a tough environment, a tough card, and trying to find agreement. This is a strong line. Jacksonville hasn't really been tested. This is a tough travel spot for a young team. And Philly is very good defensively. They're starting to get right and figure a lot of things out on that side of the ball. So, we leaned a little bit towards the line. We let Vegas do the talking there. But this is a game I'm excited to watch. Obviously, as a Cowboys fan, throwing bias out the window. Philly is very good. A lot of people were high on them preseason, and I think that's played itself out. If they can get by this Jacksonville team here, they have one of the easier schedules left in the league to go. So we'll see how this plays out. But 6.5 for the contest was the official.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, this week has been very difficult, I think, for most handicappers worldwide trying to figure out this card. Our Circa Millions card does include this play. I am not financially on this myself. But what we're looking at here specifically is the fate of the travel and the win for the Jags, and also just the situational environment. We have one corollary for Philadelphia at home outside of the division, Monday Night Football blowout of the Vikings in week 2. And we do have a corollary for the Jags, who did open the season at the Commanders and lose and not cover as an underdog. So if you're willing to look at those angles, which of course are very sharp angles, it does draw you back to Philadelphia continuing upward movement. And again, I don't think this is a look-ahead spot. I think this is a very pissed-off team. I think this is a well-coached team, underrated, but I think a well-coached team. And I mention this every time we talk about this team, but I think Jalen Hurts really is the perfect model of quarterback who's incredibly talented throwing and running the ball, and, crucial point, was disrespected just enough to piss him off. You get drafted number 1 overall, you win multiple Heisman trophies, 3 national titles, it's all smooth sailing. Sometimes the best athletes on the planet at one point in their career, whether it be high school, college, or pros, need something to go wrong, need to be insulted, need to have to work harder and prove themselves in a big moment. Jalen Hurts reminds me of Cam Newton. Big-time quarterback moving to another big-time program, replaced in a big moment. He's pissed off. A.J. Brown is right there, his best friend. They're pissed off. They're ready to go. Next week at the Cardinals, not a look ahead at all. They should be centered here, 1 o'clock in Philadelphia, in this beautiful, beautiful rain and wind, and I fucking love it. And a final point to that, Jaguars traveling in that weather, probably not advantageous. Guns, picks, comments, and then we'll get to the final official play.
I mean, Jags are just running really hot, too hot for me. You coming off a blowout win on the road against the Chargers. Doug Peterson coming back to where he got fired too.
The revenge tour, yeah.
There is a little bit of a revenge tour, and probably the media will kind of play that up. It's going to be an interesting game overall. But the Eagles are really, I mean, we're finding out that this Eagles team is going to be a contender to, maybe make a push for a Super Bowl run here. I mean, they're playing. Jalen Hurts is playing out of his mind. He's playing pissed off with a chip on his shoulder. And I just think that you look at the Jags playing out of conference, and we saw what they did in week 1 against Washington. You could see a repeat of that, in my opinion. So I think it's Eagles or pass. That's the only way I'd go with it.
Yeah, completely aligned. And we're centering final game of the afternoon card, a 2-unit special. The buy hat is engaged. And a lot to discuss here as we go to Vegas. We go to Allegiant Stadium. We go 425, 125 out there. I see you guys out there. Dutch, my guy, hanging the fuck out. Let's get in that stadium. Let's make it raucous tonight. You find an 0-3 team here, a new coach, a playoff team from last year who did win their final 4 games in the regular season last year to finish at 10-7 and go to the playoffs. And this is exactly what you want to buy. You want to buy a team that is 0-3 with high expectations, talented players coming home, and 3 losses that were all just heartbreaking, particularly against the spread. Go back to week 1. Chargers did hammer them in the first half, which is symptomatic of the Raiders not being able to play 60 minutes in the first 3 games, which I think will correct itself tonight. I think this is crucial stuff for them psychologically. They were a 2-point conversion away from losing that game 24-21 on a +3.5. Week 2, Kyler Murray, backdoor special, final play of the game, plus a 2-point conversion to send it to overtime. I mean, again, right there. And again, in their home stadium, off a loss, came out super juiced and just ran into one of the best backdoor artists in the sport right now. And then, of course, last week came out flat on the road, as we suggested on this channel. Tennessee first half would be a look. Tennessee hammered them. Raiders made a push. What do you know? 2-point conversion, final sequence of the game. They make it. They go to overtime. This team could be 3-0 ATS. They could be 3-0 straight up. Maybe a bit of a reach in terms of the first week, but this team probably should be at least 1-2. It's a buy spot. It's a fade of Denver. Denver, lackluster, really poorly coached. Russell Wilson. I mean, Russell Wilson's commercially dropped this week for Subway pretty much personifies where he is in his career right now. I just think he doesn't care as much. He's won titles. He had Pete Carroll. He has Sierra. I believe they're having kids. They got a shit ton of money. I really think he's kind of hanging out. We said this about LeBron James going to LA. I think Russell Wilson, clearly Denver is not LA. He's just in a different mental environment right now. And with this head coach, this team is really, really difficult. A very fraudulent 2-1, a pathetic effort against the Texans in a win. Last week, Sunday Night Football, 11-10. I mean, this was not the Rockies versus the Giants. This was somehow Denver versus the 49ers. All boxes checked. 2-unit special. Las Vegas Raiders, -2. Anthony Latino, the odds fellow. Alignment, I believe.
Alignment, not an official for me, but I'm probably going to add it. We are on it in the contest, so I'll kick it over to Guns because I believe he's aligned here too and has some more info. But just real quick on the contest for us, we hit Thursday with the Bengals at -3.5. We closed it out today with 4. Bears +3, Eagles -6.5, Browns -1, and Oakland Raiders -2.5. So those are the contest plays. We'll get into some officials later. Guns, anything else on the Raiders?
Yeah, this is an official for me too. I got Raiders -2. Now it's pure fade spot for Denver after they beat the San Francisco 49ers at home 11-10 in ugly fashion. What an ugly game. They only put up 267 yards of total offense. And thank God you brought up Russell Wilson and how cheesy his Subway commercial was. He also did the promo with Broncos Country. Let's ride. This guy is a dork. I don't like him at all. I don't like the coaching of that team either. I think this team is a complete in shambles, and the fact that they won in prime time is just going to carry over into what I consider a regression, if there is such a thing, with the Denver Broncos. Now you look at the Raiders here, 0-3, losing to Tennessee last week, 24-22 on the road, despite having a +35 net yard average for the game. So this team is fighting. This is the first time they've been back home since the loss to the Arizona Cardinals. They were up 23-7 in the fourth quarter, absolutely dominating the game, and they just completely collapsed, losing in overtime 29-23. Not only killing the total, but also killing the spread if you were on the Raiders and the under. But look where the Raiders do against the Broncos. They absolutely dominate this team. They're 9-2 against the spread in this matchup, dating back to 2016. You have a Raiders team that is hungry for a win. You have a Denver team that is off a primetime road win Now they're going to go play the Raiders, divisional opponent, and I think the Raiders really show out here and dominate this game. I mean, you got to go Las Vegas Raiders. That's going to be my official -2.
Yeah, 2-unit play, top play of the late card. 8:20 p.m. NBC Sports. Big time matchup coming down here to Tampa. I believe the game was supposed to be rescheduled. It's not, which is an incredible testament to the work people are doing on the streets and the local workers of Tampa Bay. We really give you guys a shout again. Abundant energy from us to you. We appreciate the hell out of you. Patrick Mahomes comes in here. Buccaneers, really going to be a classy game. Anthony Latino, we're looking at the side, or excuse me, we're looking at the total, not the side. Talk to me on this one.
One of my favorite things. Go low. Love to bet unders. I'm a crazy person, I know. But the Bucs 3-0 towards the under this year. For me, I got this KC Tampa Bay under 46. It has actually been moving up a little bit, which I don't mind. So 45, 45 and a half, 46. I'm at the 46 mark right now. NFL unders this season overall, 31-18. That's 63%. 11-5 in week 1, 11-5 in week 2, 8-8 in week 3, and then 1-0 so far on the week 4 campaign. So treading a little bit lighter there. You figure it's going to come smack each other, back in the mouth the other way here, just with the overall regression of over versus unders. But this for me is really similar to that Green Bay Tampa Bay game a couple weeks ago, 1 or 2 weeks ago, where you just look at the quarterbacks and the offenses and the tradition and the history here, and you think over. And I think that's what the public is thinking and doing. And I'll gladly take a number that here is set a little bit lower. I'm, again, following what Vegas is telling me. That Tampa Bay defense is very good. The Kansas City defense is very good against the run, which is largely what the Bucs have wanted to do. They want to get Fournette out there, shorter passes, crisper passes, especially as they try to get that Tampa receiving core a little bit healthier. So, prime time under, even better, right? So I'll take under 46. I think this is going to be a close one. First half under might be a good look, but under 46 for me right now is an official 1-unit play.
Yeah, solid look there. And as you mentioned, the league is clustering unders. I don't disagree with this take because, again, I think this is the state of Tampa Bay football right now until they get it together offensively. And, of course, in pro football, if one team can't score, oftentimes the other team doesn't score. It's a weird counter merge flow together where when all of a sudden you see these clusters like we talked about in the Houston game with 38 in the fourth quarter, you start to see like a pick six that jumps off because the other team pushes back and then it opens up. When one team can't score, the other can't score, and that's what you saw last week. Aaron Rodgers was about to score at the goal line to go up 21-3, a turnover. All of a sudden, the game stood still. So I think you're looking at something sharp here, but a great point about the entire league probably going to overs soon, at least in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Guns Picks, any comments on this, or should we close it out?
Yeah, I have no opinion on that one. I think odds hit all the key points there. But yeah, like you just said, I think all the unders are starting to hit at a 63% clip. Eventually, oil always finds its way up to the top. So you're probably going to be seeing some overs here pretty quick. So just be on the lookout for it.
Yeah, absolutely. 58 minutes in the books. We appreciate you guys for joining us. It is the Circa Million Show every week at 10 a.m. or thereabouts. Part 4, NFL Week 4, October 2nd, 2022. Official plays in full recap right now. My 5 plays, Washington +3, Cleveland -120, Buffalo -3, Chargers, Texans under 45, Las Vegas Raiders, turn the hell up in Las Vegas, 4:25 p.m., 2-unit special. Odds fellow 5 plays, Chicago Bears at the Giants +3, Chargers -5.5, alignment on Cleveland -1, Arizona +1, Tampa Bay, Kansas City, as just discussed, under 46. The Gun, Washington +3 alignment, Houston +5.5, little counter there between odds and Gun. Chicago +3 alignment with odds, Cleveland alignment 3-way, and Las Vegas Raiders alignment. It is Sharky Waters Nation. It is 9 words of lifestyle. Ride the wave out of the water. We appreciate you guys immensely for choosing our show to interact with us. We try to bring you the best content, and what that means for us is connection, conversation, entertainment, and hype, and the deepest possible numbers and psychological narratives to pro sports on this beautiful 7-point Sunday. Close it out, Guns Picks, and let's dominate.
Hey, thanks for joining us once again for the sharpest NFL information on the planet. Please hit the like, hit the subscribe to the Dad Bods channel and help us grow the show. So until next time, I guess we'll see you Friday for absolute domination once again after a remarkable week 5 in college football. Let's carry that on to week 4 NFL. Till next time, we'll see you later. Peace.